hello, and welcome back to the Pride Pod here, live on Loud and Proud Orlando on another Tuesday night. I am joined by two very special guests of mine. Welcome to Enter their channel to Dino and to Grant. Dino, welcome. How are you? And Grant, you yourself too. Look, I've got my adult beverage, like you
At
guys.
that.
I'm ready to
Let's go.
go. So introduce yourselves to those who don't know, and tell us about your channel and what you do.
Absolutely. I can go ahead. So I'm Dino
Yep.
DeCespedes, co-host, one of the co-creators of the Into the Channel pod at ITC Pod, at ITC_pod on X, for those that are curious. Available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. And yeah, man, we just cover pretty much the wide world of women's football. We just kind of wrapped up the Champions League. We're kind of double dipping, doing some NWSL as well. Primarily women's football focused. So if you're into that sort of thing, like Grant and I are, and I know you guys are here as well, yeah, come hang out.
Yeah. You can tell Dino's the host. He knows all the handles, rattles everything off, like it's second nature. Yeah, I'm Grant, co-host, co-creator. Yeah, happy to join you couple of Florida boys down there from up here in Seattle.
Yeah, Dino is now living here in Central Florida. So he's got his Pride stuff on. So, I know you're also accredited media, right? Luis has seen you in the press box. He told me that. So you're going to the games. And Grant, you're up there in Seattle reporting on the Rain, who are not having such a great time. So two different worlds for you guys at the moment. But we're glad to have you here. Luis is away on vacation this week, so it's sad to hear that, but he's enjoying England, so he's loving it there. And I get to have you guys out and hang out with me. So we're having a great time here as well. So I want to say, everybody, drop your comments. We want to hear from you. We've already got a comment here from Derek. He's saying, any news on when we might see Angelina back in the lineup? We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, Derek, when we're going to do the predicted lineup for NC Courage. But I'm hopeful. Well, I'm hopeful on Angelina, but we'll talk about more of that later. For now, we're going to talk the San Diego Wave game. This one, it wasn't the most exciting of games, I've got to say. For us, it was a little bit tough at times, I think, for Orlando Pride. Not like we've been used to this season. But at the end of the day, we got out of there with a draw, a pretty decent result. First of all, I want to ask Grant what you think of this game. What was your initial reaction?
Obviously, the goal you guys score, you turn defense on a corner kick into transition offense so unbelievably fast. I think it was Ali Watt clears the ball out of the box. The ball eventually finds Bonda. She's flying downfield. Nice little, like, she gets Naomi Gurma. I think Gurma was already on a yellow at the time. You could tell Gurma is absolutely terrified of maybe terrified is not the right word because Gurma's an elite player, but you could tell Gurma is very concerned about fouling Bonda in the box. She serves in the cross to Julie Doyle in an amazing finish. Just that, and it happens in the span of like 25 seconds. Your guys' ability to just kind of flip on the offense, hit the jets, is just incredible to see every match you play.
19 seconds.
There we go.
I mean, yeah, it was a back to front. Like that definitely is part of what we do. Sometimes we possess the ball, but we are, as Orlando Pride, able to do that at times. Just go, the transition play back to front, 19 seconds or whatever. And Barbara is a big part of that, obviously. Dino, what do you think in terms of the result for this one? A better result for the Wave or a better result for the Pride?
I gotta say, I mean, in the nature of the draw, I gotta say each side's probably pretty happy. I mean, just watching both of these sides, that San Diego Wave team is very talented. I think the commentators were talking about that as well. Just really good, talented players, not really able to finish. They're at home. And Orlando, obviously, defensively, they're kind of borderline dominant. So I want to say that Orlando probably happy with a road point at San Diego. Considering obviously Banda doesn't play the second half, San Diego probably really happy with the draw, considering they're still in very, very kind of mediocre form, considering we're almost halfway through the season here.
Can I chime in there though?
Yeah, please.
I think that's right. I think in the happiness pie, if we were going to give percentages there, I think it speaks to how dominant Orlando has been this year, that the Wave are probably a little happier to come away with a draw at home. I think that really speaks to your guys' amazing form this season.
Yeah, I mean I think the Wave have struggled as well. I don't see them, I've watched Casey Stoney when they came to town. She just looks annoyed and frustrated a lot of time. I don't think she knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing yet, especially without Alex Morgan. But at the end of the day, they are a team that was, they finished top of the table last year. They're Shield winners. So they have an incredible, look at that back three. I mean, you've got Sheridan, Gurma, and I'm blanking on the last one. Help me out here, guys.
Dahlkemper?
Yes, Dahlkemper. And the three of them, they played really well. And obviously they're international players. They had a very good game. I think, it's something that we had to also rotate the lineup, and that's sort of the point I was going to make, but brings us on to the next question. Do you, was this the right move for us? Do you think, Grant, to rotate the team? Obviously, we had some internationals. What did you think of this lineup?
Okay, I'm gonna crack the beverage at this point to make myself seem less like a sissy.
I forgot about the beverage. So yeah, sorry, my bad. Please go ahead.
No, you're good. So I have been accused by some of the YouTube commenters. Usually everybody's very, very nice, cool fans of the ITC, as I'm sure you experience here. But I am big into, hey, if these players were out on international duty, don't play them that many minutes. Don't start them if you really don't think you have to, because I think that the football calendar is unforgiving right now, especially in women's football. And I think, FIFA, UEFA, NWSL, all the leagues are still kind of trying to figure out how they can, of course, the corporatists are trying to figure out how to maximize the revenue. At the same time, we're trying to figure out how much of a load can we put on these players to play. So I am typically a fan of rotating the squad, especially if you with player safety in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this was probably the right move by Seb here. It's difficult. I mean, Marta came into camp. We saw that, like, she wanted to go to the game. She went directly there from camp. Sorry. But the other two that were on Brazilian duty did not. So I think it shows that she just really is a big part of this squad, and she really wants to be there regardless. And she had the opportunity to come on. I wanted to ask Dino what he thought as I crack my beer as well. Dino, what do you think about the Barbara Banda coming off at halftime the last couple games?
I mean, you never want to say the I word, obviously, like with a team on this kind of tear, in terms of like thinking about avoiding potential injuries. But I do think that Seb Hines probably still very, very, very much in tinker mode. I think in a lot of ways, obviously this team starts out with a string of draws, 8 straight wins after that. You kind of get the feeling that, all right, well, let's just put it in cruise control. It's not, move anything, break anything, but ultimately still a lot of learning to happen when you think about where this team was last year. Adding Banda basically is just like, it moves everybody down a peg, right? It's like our best player is not our second best player. Our fifth is now our sixth. Also some good rookies, some additions, some players kind of maturing, coming into their own. I think this is probably not going to be the end of some of these rotations, some of these changes. Seb Hines has he's spoken a lot about just the length of the season, and I think it's like, hey, we're not really trying. We're not going to win a trophy right now. We're not going to win a trophy this weekend or next weekend. This is really a bit of a marathon. we joke about like you look at the calendar playoffs, like there's dates in November, that we're talking about with regard to like playoffs and stuff. So, I mean, we're sort of barely kind of scratching the surface. I'm kind of fine with it. I thought San Diego, very winnable game, but you escape with a draw, still, undefeated on the season. That's pretty unbelievable. I mean, if you ask any Pride fan, hey, would you take this? I think 10 out of 10 would take this in a minute. And I wanted to just rewind real quick. Thanks for inviting us on the show. I realized I didn't do that in the intro, and apologies. Best, well wishes to my guy, Luis. I met him in the press box, and full disclosure, that was my first game being accredited. I was a nervous Nelly. I shook his hand. I didn't recognize him until I got home, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. So shout out Luis. I appreciated hanging out. He was a super friendly dude. I hope to kind of see him again soon at a game. And again, appreciate you guys open the door to your pod to just us young pups, just to come together and talk some football here.
Well, I think your comments on Barbara, I think were correct, and Haley here actually herself has a a comment. So she says it's been a long season. We need to keep her healthy before she goes in with Zambia Olympic break. They will play every minute of every match. Managing player health is critical. That's as I suspected. I think as you guys probably suspected. I think Barbara just looks really upset on the sideline, but she just wants to play. So she's just like, I get me back in there, but she also knows, I'm sure, that this is the right thing to do. So there's some frustration around some of the Zambian fans that they think that she's being taken out for some other reasons. There you go. From the GM itself, we have the words. And also, I wanted to show you guys. There you go. Haley is a big fan.
No
of
way.
the channel as well. So we're connecting worlds here. Last week, I hope you guys saw, we had Haley on the pod. She did an amazing interview. So I'll say thank you again to her. Thank you for being here and talking with us. So that is, I pretty much, I want to show the replay. I got to see if I can find it quickly here. Of the goals. I don't have it set up because I'm not as smooth as Luis is all the time. So maybe I'll find it sneakily while we talk about something else. Anything else from this game that you guys thought? We talked about rotating lineups. We talked about Barbara. We talked about the result. Let's talk about San Diego Wave. I would love to hear you guys' perspective. I gave my little piece, but just on them, we'll talk more broader on NWSL later, but just on them, Dino, and then Grant, tell me your thoughts on the Wave.
Yeah, for sure. And first off, great job with the interview with Haley from the Pride. As an Orlandoan, as a newly minted Orlandoan, got me super fired up. So let's fucking go. Very excited. Yeah, back to the Wave. I think they just kind of look out of rhythm. I think Leanne Sanderson, who actually we're going to have her on our pod later this week. We did a great interview with her yesterday that should be up later this week. That's going to be exciting. So definitely come check that out. She was just commenting on their finishing, which I think is obviously a huge problem. I think at some point in the first half, maybe just before halftime, or maybe it was at the half, the possession stats, I think, were 64-36. So they were pretty much dominating possession. I think both teams had 3 shots on target at that point. They're just not really able to put it together in that final third. Ultimately, the talent's there. You can see them able to move the ball, but it just seems like every offensive sequence kind of sputters out. It was really, Grant, you mentioned this a few seconds ago, seeing Naomi Girma on the back foot, not used to seeing that. Obviously Ali Watt draws the early yellow on Girma, and now you're on a yellow and you've got to, sort of contend with Barbara Banda. Not fun, so I think their out of syncness, their out of rhythmness just kind of continues. We're going to kind of see if they're able to kind of get things on track. But I think historically, this is we've had a long-ish mediocre run from them. I'm not, my expectations for the Wave this season aren't extremely high at this point, unless something kind of pretty seismic comes in to kind of shift what direction they're headed.
that's pretty shocking compared to, like, you know what I mean? Like, thinking about them last year, like we said, it's their. I expect them to right the ship and get up into the playoff places, but they arguably should be a top 3 team with that roster. So, Grant, do you have any thoughts on the Wave quickly?
I totally agree with that, John, because and Dino and I we have a joke where I admit to a little bit of caveman brain where I look at the roster and I just say, man, they have a lot of good players on that roster. They have to be better than this. Like McCaskill, the addition of Sanchez, Shaw, and Morgan, you got to be able to score goals. And so I do think I lean kind of toward where you are, John. And as the season progresses and those players kind of figure out their link up play, you saw what Sanchez was able to do on the goal that they scored in this one. I know we'll talk about that. I think as Sanchez gets a little more familiar, I think they should be able to put it together. And your comments are here. I think that's a great point as well.
See, look, you could do my job for me. There you go. I'm kidding. Thank you. Yes, I was going to read Jen's comment, so that's perfect. So here we go. I'm going to show you the highlight and also show Jen's other comment. Thank you, Jen. Says that finish from Julie was amazing, but also the counter attack from the opposing corner. Here you go. And annoying that do you guys find this in NWSL? They cut off the highlights like really badly. They don't show enough of the actual goal, or they don't show it like multiple angles of the celebration. And that's the case here. Like, we don't see what happens where we get the ball from the corner. We just see from this point going forward. But here you can see Barba, and I'll play the commentary.
Filthy.
Yeah, I mean, how in the world did she manage to score that? Vito, I mean, your thoughts on Doyle's wonder goal there?
I mean, stroke of brilliance. I mean, what can you say, really? I mean, it's you kind of see this sometimes also in the other sports where you just have a sensational phenom come in and it just kind of raises the water level of everyone. You know, I think the belief starts to grow, the confidence starts to grow. I mean, you're Julie Doyle and you see Barbara Ronda like just streaking, and you realize you just were kind of defending a corner a dozen seconds prior, and now the ball's coming at you and you're just no time to think almost. And I think that's kind of what we saw. You know, is that something that's replicable? Maybe not, but that's not what we're trying to do here, right? It's just football, trying to put the ball in the net, and then kind of go from there.
Julie definitely has her moments to shine. You know, she is a very good player. Like, we're blessed with very good players here at the Pride.
Yeah.
Right. I want to ask talk about the San Diego Wave goal. I'll try and bring it up here. And I was going to ask you, Grant, your thoughts. You know, was this preventable? I think some people, they still take issue with Anna Morehouse here. I'm not one of them personally, I think, on this one, but let's look at the goal and then I'll get your thoughts. Here you go. Grant, is Anna to blame there or no?
I don't think it's too nitpicky to say you might like a better punch there. You might like a stronger push away there. Maybe, you know, if she I think her positioning is probably fine, but if you like us maybe a stronger touch of the ball. But I think that I think that's a tough spot for Morehouse, and I feel like that's a little bit of a slop goal. You know, obviously you see it trickle off the defender there. Um, Honestly, with Dino, you talk about like what's replicable and what isn't. I think that's not something that I don't think anybody's going to get excoriated in the film session about that.
Yeah, we when we talked with Haley and she talked, there's times when she'll talk with Anna about like she has, because Haley used to be a goalkeeper as well. I don't think this was one of those times. I think I agree that maybe if we're being nitpicky, we could say a little bit of a better punch there would have been nice. But I think after that, it's just unlucky. The ball hits off carry and goes in. Not much we can do. And the Wave, we're probably going to get one. I think we didn't get another, which leads me sort of onto a question I don't have in here, but it's something I want to ask Dino. Should we be concerned that when we have taken Barbara off the last 2 games, we've not able to score without her on the field?
I would say probably. I mean, we're talking about probably like one full 90-minute period without Bonda and not being able to score if you kind of combine the two halves. I wouldn't necessarily be worried about that because obviously she's a money player. You expect her to be there every big match for sure, and maybe down the stretch most minutes that are available. So I think we can definitely expect her to be there. And I think we're also seeing something that we didn't. I don't want to say we didn't see too much of it, but her distributing, her playmaking. I think her willingness to kind of move the ball, pull in some gravity, create some space for other players. I think has been incredible. And the Julie Doyle goal is something right there. And I think as more of that creation, more of that playmaking kind of takes hold this season, it's only going to raise the confidence for some of these other players. And I think open up, just more opportunities and more scoring. So I wouldn't be so worried. I mean, if we lost, you don't want to speak of things like that into existence, but I think if Bonda's there this season, not much to worry about. I mean, if we're not, lighting it up in the non-Bonda minutes, I'm not really worried. And I think the big reason for that is defensively. This is a team that's given up 11 goals in 12 matches. And you just see it on the field. Like, they're just nasty. Like, they're everywhere. They're crowding you. They're making it uncomfortable. I think one of the forwards, I think it's one of the young player, it might be Jones for the Wave. There was a play early where Abello tries to just wipe her out. It's just a gnarly collision, maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the match. And that's just how they play. Sam, Strom, like Martinez, the whole back line is really very happy to mix it up, which is so cool to see. And I think the stats back it up. I think they're definitely holding it down there. So I think Orlando seems like a team that can win multiple types of ways this season.
I agree. And I think I asked that question just because I see these things being asked online. So I want to get people's opinion on whether we think there's stock in those questions or not. And I think for Barbara, it's a case that she's just a vacuum around her always. Like, everything, when she's on the field, she's going to have a couple defenders around her, and that opens up opportunities for anybody else in our team. We've got a mass amount of quality players. I think sometimes we focus so much on Barbara because she is that good, but we forget that, the likes of Adriana is there. Summer Yates is having an incredible season. Obviously, Julie Doyle there showing her class. Like, an attacking opportunity, like when Angelina's coming back, she can play on one of those wide positions or in the 10. Obviously Chanda's coming in as well. So we're so stacked in those attacking mid roles that, and even striking roles. Like we saw Alex Kerr. Sorry, not Alex Kerr. We saw a striker come on in the end of this game. Alex Kerr coming on. And also Larroquette came on, right? We haven't really played Larroquette much. Like, the list is endless for me of attacking options. So I don't think it's just that, Barbara is our only way to score. I think that she is, performing really well, but we played pretty well without her before she got here. We got some draws and some wins as well. So I think this team just is different when she's on the field and not. And we need to know, how to score when she's not on the field. It doesn't mean we can't score. It just means we play a different way, I think. And that's what we need to figure out, is how are we playing still without Barbara, which we know. We used to do that before. So we'll get back to that. Let's move on. and talk about North Carolina Courage. This is coming on June 15th. So this Friday, this Saturday, get my days mixed up here. We're going to be away at North Carolina Courage. They are pretty good at home, but have been suffering recently. If we look over here, it'll show you their recent lineup and predicted lineup for these games. So I feel like they are a pretty good team. I want to get your initial thoughts, Dino, on the Courage.
I'll say 0% scared going into this one. Like, I think offensively, the Courage, leave a lot to be desired. We talked a lot about the Caroline injury, obviously. I just don't think this team is very potent offensively. Kind of feels like one of those games where if we can get 2 goals, it's an automatic dub. If we get 1, we could probably still get out of there with the win, unless something kind of fluky happens. Like I said, I think not enough has been talked about Orlando defensively. A team like North Carolina is just built to struggle against this Orlando side. So going into this one, I don't know. I'm feeling good. I feel like we're still undefeated, come Saturday, come Sunday, come Monday morning. So I don't know. We're ready. I'm ready.
I love that. I mean, yes, that's definitely the attitude, right? We think North Carolina Courage in years go by have been a pretty good, pretty dominant team in this league. Like similar to the Wave, they're not as good this year. Definitely. I mean, they don't draw apparently 5 wins and 7 losses. So if it's going to be an all-out like goal fest, I think we're gonna probably win that one. So yes, I think I'm with you. Your thoughts, Grant, on this matchup on Friday against North Carolina?
Yeah, I think North Carolina, I mean, they started pretty hot. They were kind of floating up around there at the top of the table, I think 4 or 5 weeks in. Dino mentioned it. Once the Caroline injury happened at the end of last year, we knew it was going to be tough sledding for them to score a lot of goals. It's a heavy load for Ashley Sanchez to carry. I totally agree with Dino and your point about the defense for Orlando is kind of an unsung hero because you have this supernova up at forward in Banda. You guys have the right. You guys should be walking around chests puffed out saying 0% scared. There's not a team in the league that you should be scared of. Like, obviously, when you guys go up against the Current, that's going to be a banger of a game. When you go up against Washington Spirit, that's going to be a banger. Some of the other really tough teams, I think, obviously like the Wave have a lot of good players. You can accept that those might be fun, somewhat difficult matchups, but you should never walk into any match scared. That would be foolish for the firepower and the depth that you guys have.
Wrong choice of words there by me, probably. Last time we played them, the highlights up here. It was a 4-1 win for Orlando. I was at this game. It was essentially almost like more of a 4-4-2. And you see in this game, it was Ali Watt and Barbara Banda just with all the speed on the counterattack. This is the first goal here. You can see it was Barbara to Ali. Oh no, it's probably coming up. But anyway, that was pretty much this whole game. And it was probably one of our biggest wins of the season. A lot of confidence going into it's not really like a local rival, but they are our closest team. And they have historically been pretty good at home. But this year, perhaps not so. Obviously, Ashley Sanchez, Bianca St. George, Kaylee Kurtz in this team. That I think they got a very good defense. They've always had that. Yeah. They've always had a good defense. But our team, Orlando Pride, are just too good in the attack. So I can't imagine that they're going to keep us out. And if they score 1, we'll probably get 2. That's how I see this one going. Do you guys
makes a lot of sense.
Thoughts on this before we do a possible lineup?
I mean, I think you're right about the Courage. They've only won 1 of their last 5 matches, and the only one, I think, though, there were 4 road matches that they lost and then 1 at home. that they won. I think, Sean Nahas is a pretty well-regarded coach. So I think that was kind of part of how they got off to that hot start. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where you got the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. You got North Carolina at home, but then you got this just run and gun machine that you guys are running down there.
Dino, do you have any thoughts on the Courage for Friday? Like, what are you looking for as, what's going through your mind as reporter Dino on Orlando Pride for this game?
I mean, I think the thing I'll be looking for is kind of like the tempo of the match. So will it be up and down? Will there be chances, or will this be one of those types of matches that kind of gets drug into the mud a little bit, which I imagine would make the Courage fans happy if it's a little slower paced and a little physical, and that the chances are few and far between. But I think if Orlando is able to, like we saw against San Diego, turn defense into offense, get out on the break, create chances. Like if Orlando creates chances, the goals will come. If the Courage is able to kind of like lock it down, be very disciplined defensively, slow the tempo, it could be a longer day, and it might. Now we might see the Courage's first draw this season, so they might find the draw there. That'll be fun for them, not for us. So we'll see. But yeah, I think tempo is probably the first thing that I'm going to be looking at. I think Orlando's going to want to come out and run, find space, keep the movement happening, and then just kind of keep the Courage kind of on their heels a little bit, a la what we saw, the attackers able to do to like a Naomi Girma. So I think the first 15, 20 minutes, I think is going to say a lot about what direction this match is headed.
For sure. I'm hoping it's going to be an exciting one and not like this first game we played against them with lots of goals, and not something that's just, a boring sort of. It could be a tight affair, this one. We'll have to see. I'm hoping we brought our scoring boots for this game for sure.
Yeah, also Haley, I was going to say, Haley probably got me a little fired up too. Just like, we breed champions here in Orlando, so like I'll blame her if I got too fired up and there's a big letdown coming. No, I'm just joking, but
no, I think that's I mean, I'm really excited for another home game. I think there's been that long period off, and there's a lot of fans that are new to Orlando Pride, and people are getting involved. Attendance is growing, and so this next home game, I'm really hoping that maybe we'll break that 10K mark. Last game we were like 9,700. Grant, you had something you want to say there, buddy? Go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, watching those highlights, whatever stadium you're playing in against the Courage, if Ali Watt is dealing like that again, she had just in the course of those highlights, she had 7 amazing passes to open up scoring opportunities. North Carolina might be in trouble if that happens again.
I hope so. All right. We're going to do something here where it's a little bit of fun for us, really. We like to predict the lineup as best we can, which is really hard with Orlando Pride and the way that Seb Hines likes to change things around. But I'm sure Dino has got some ideas as well. Oh, we got a comment here from Haley. She says, get fired up. North Carolina is a tough team, especially at home. All of their wins this season have come at home. Not a team to ever underestimate, especially at their place, LFG. Yeah, I mean, they're still just like it was. If we get a draw out of this one, I think everybody should take that as a good result. 2 away trips, 2 draws, big, hard places to get results. But I'm hopeful. I think they don't draw, so let's get a win, as we see. We're gonna move on and do a little bit of lineup predicting. I think, Dino, what do you think about this back line? I think it's almost locked in when we're at full strength as to what our best back four is. But I wonder if you agree with me. Give me the back four that you think we should play.
Yeah, fully agree. Locked in. Definitely a Bello. And apologies, I don't know if I'm going to be all the way up on any injury news. So if I kind of misstep there, definitely let me know. And then,
We don't always either. We do our best to know
Yeah.
as much as we can.
Yeah, Sam's and Strom here in these spots. And then I think you got to go, Brianna Martinez probably at on the right there. And now kind of where it gets interesting. Now's where we got to make some moves.
Well, I think Hafa should be back, right? So that would be my only change to that. It was maybe Sam's at right back. If Hafa's back from international duty, I think
That's fair.
so.
Yeah.
But that would be the only thing that would change from the last match. I think definitely that this is the rest of it is exactly as it should be. But I think if Hafa's back, then we'll see that change. And Emily Sams, we'll talk a little bit more about her later when we talk about NWSL. But she's been killing it. Here in the midfield, it's got to be Haley. I try not to spell her last name because I always mess it up. We'll go here. Who do you think is going to play next to Haley in this one? We've been changing it around, but I'm hoping that Morgan's going to be ready to go again in this week. And then you're sort of attacking 3, Dino. Who do you think we might play there?
I think Julie Doyle's got to be there. Somebody you mentioned earlier, Summer Yates. It's got to be one of those 3.
Where do you want to put him? You think Martha's going to start?
I don't know.
I feel like they're going to be back for this one. I think they are. I'm going to take this punt here.
Yeah.
And say the Brazilians are back. I don't think Angelina, but I think Martha and Hafa. I think Adriana, whether she starts or not, is a question of. I think Summer definitely is a great shout. I think Summer is due to be back in the lineup. So I'm going to put Summer and Julie in here, just as our sort of guess, because it's really hard. That's the thing. We got so many great players. It's predicting the lineup is difficult.
Yeah.
Apart from this one's quite easy. Banda up top at the number 9. So I think that's what we'll go for. We'll go Morehouse, Carabello at left back, Kylie Strom and Hafa, and Sam's providing the roll back. Haley and Morgan in the D mid positions. Julie Doyle, Marta, Summer Yates, and Barbara Banda. But Adriana could be in there. There's lots of Ali Limos has played some games for us, starting looking pretty bright. Excited about her future. There's so many good options here. So we'll see. You two guys, you got to give me a score prediction before we move on from North Carolina Courage. Grant, your best guess at our result.
I'm going to say 2-1 Orlando. I absolutely agree with Haley. She made, she's right on. I know you guys talked about it too. Like North Carolina, they're well coached. It is a home match. I realize I'm picking a team to win outright on the road. I just think you guys are so strong right now that I think it's going to be difficult for a lot of teams to stop you.
Yeah,
Dino, what do you think?
I'm going to echo the Orlando win for sure, and I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to say the Courage have a tough time kind of breaking through against this defense, especially with Rafaela back. That's not going to be fun. And I feel like we're going to be able to maybe notch one in each half and keep the good times rolling.
All righty. Well, speaking of keeping the good times rolling, I'll say it's going to be 4-1. I think it's going to happen again. I think it's going to happen. I don't know why. I just think it's like we're going to be their bogey team this year, and it's just going to repeat. I don't know why. There's something about the way they play. Like you said, they hold the ball so high, it's dangerous against us, and that's what we saw. So I think we're gonna cause them problems at home. Let's move on from that and talk a little bit about the NWSL in general. Hold on, we got one last comment from Haley. She says, "I have to run, but thank you all 3 for your hard work coverage. You give our team and our athletes. It matters. I really appreciate it." Well, thank you, Haley. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for your comments and everything you do. And we're excited for Friday, even more excited now. So let's go. Vamos Pride. Speaking about the wider league, NWSL, you guys cover it. I obviously we follow it as part of the Orlando Pride, but you do, I think, a lot more than I would do. I've watched some of your guys' stuff. I think it's really interesting the way you report on the league. You've got some great perspectives. So I wanted to get some of that information out of your brain and pass it over to some of our Orlando Pride fans here on LPO. So we're going to run through some questions. I'm going to ask them to Dino and Grant. But if you have any questions in the comments, please drop them. We'd love to hear from you. Anything that you want to ask me or any of these guys, anything on women's soccer. They cover everything on women's soccer. So it doesn't have to be strictly NWSL. Any questions you got, drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. First question. I'm going to ask you both of them. But if you're like, hey, I disagree with the other person says, you can just say, you don't have to repeat, because sometimes I feel like I agree with a lot of what Luis says, and then we repeat ourselves. Question one is, which NWSL team is most surprising this season? So I'm going to ask Grant you this one first, and this can be like good or bad surprise.
I like it. I'm gonna say both as a good and bad, because I am surprised at the path the Portland Thorns have taken to get to fourth place. I picked ahead of the season. Dino and I, of course, did an NWSL season preview, and I picked the Portland Thorns to win the championship because they, Sophia Smith, Sam Coffey, Hina Sujita, the list, Christine Sinclair in her farewell season. The list goes on and on and on and on of their great players. And then they started out and they looked horrible in the first few weeks of the season. And then they've kind of been, and they've just been on a roll ever since. It just seems like they've got hot. They made the manager change. They've looked better since then. So I will say, I'm not surprised that Portland Thorns is near the top of the league, because that's typically where the Portland Thorns are in the NWSL throughout their history. But I was really surprised at the path they've taken to get here.
Yeah, they started out rough, and then they changed it, and now what's his name? Rob. I can't remember the interim guy. But I was watching him on the sideline when they came. Rob Gale, yeah, when they came to town, and yeah, he was like in a full suit in the Florida heat with like baggy suit pants like over his like sneakers. I was like, bro, this is not like, look at Seb. This is how you do it. This is how we do it here in Florida. It was just funny, the different two English managers both managing different women's teams in America on the sidelines together. Very different guys. Dino, do you have a different take for this one? What was your surprise this year?
We got into a little bit. I think the San Diego Wave, who just as talented. I think when you look at kind of player for player, even players we didn't really talk too much about, like Lundqvist. I mean, they have a really good team with really good players, and they look like a bottom 3, bottom 4 type team when you just kind of watch them go through the motions and actually play. Especially considering where they finished last season. So when you think about kind of like expectations going into this season, I don't think, Grant, in our preview, I don't think we had the Wave that high up necessarily. I don't think we picked them either as finalists or as Shield winners, but didn't really expect this. And it doesn't look kind of like a string of bad luck. We talked about like they were the beneficiaries of some good luck against the Pride. The ball could have bounced anyway off of Morehouse's hands, and then it's a different result at home. So this is a team that is in some real trouble. Looks like they don't really have a lot of good ideas to go from here. And I think that to me has been the biggest surprise of the season, is they just seem to be kind of like a non-factor when you think about, okay, who are these title contenders that we need to be taking seriously?
Yeah, the Wave definitely are a surprise bad package. Also, I would probably say Seattle Reign. Like, that's really, I'm sure, Grant, you've got some opinion on that one.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before the season. I wasn't sure what to think. So, they add veteran Ji So-yeon from a longtime Chelsea player out of South Korea. legendary player in the South Korea program and at Chelsea. I think the last time I did it, so I hope I'm right on this, Ji So-yun lost 6 matches as a part of Chelsea Football Club in the WSL over like her 6 seasons. And as we take a look at the table now, yes, the Reign have lost 9 matches this season. So, you lose Megan Rapinoe, you lose Emily Sonnet, you lose Rose Lavelle. I was a little concerned, but we added Ji So-yun, you add James Angarad Turner, or Angarad James Turner, pardon me. You try to claw some of that back. Jordan Heitema gets hurt early, and it's like, where are the goals coming from? Is kind of what's happening with Seattle Reign. They always play a little bit of a defensive style anyway, and now you have a lack of a scoring threat. You play a defensive style. Goals have been hard to come by this year.
Yeah, I mean, you lose all those key players. You think you're going to replace them and it's going to be smooth, but it doesn't always go that way. And that's how just historically, Seattle Reign have always been up there. So this year, shocking to see. I would also say quickly, just the Gotham start was been rough.
Yep.
But I'm sure they're going to be
great point,
flying up the league anytime soon, like Portland did. Jay Texas has a question here. Dino, you give us your answer on: do you see a team sneaking into the playoffs?
Sneaking. This is a little bit of a cheat because this team's already sort of in one of the playoff spots. But I think Louisville is sneaky a good team. You think about Savannah DeMello, she's cooking. They hit on both of their draft picks, Raylan Turner and Emma Sears. Uchenna Kanu, she's kind of cooled off a little bit after a hot start. But they play really tough. Like we were joking early in the season. Let me see if I got my number here. So they're at 3 wins, 2 losses, and 6 draws. We were joking. It's like, okay, all this team does is draw. And I'm like, it's hard. It's hard as shit to draw in this league. And then you think about this Racing Louisville team is a team that looks and feels like they should be sort of the betting underdog against a lot of the other teams in the league, right? They look like they've got the short stack, but they play hard. They're kind of creative. They've got a good mix of talented players. Like I said, they hit on their draft picks. I think that, like I said, it's a kind of a cheat because they're in one of those spots, but I absolutely expect them to stay in that playoff mix, make the playoffs, maybe make a little noise in that first round, and then kind of we'll see what happens from there. I don't think they have sort of like enough top end talent, to kind of like break all the way through, but I really like what they're doing. And just kind of a cool environment there when you watch their home games, and it looks like they're having a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, I think they were we forget, but they were for a while at that point where they were also undefeated. They just had a bunch of draws, and then it kind of went the other way, whereas the pride of gone, continued to hold on to that thing. You need that in NWSL. You need to be able to come back. Pride didn't have it in years before. This year we have it. You need to be able to come back and take a point, or come back and win, because too often you'll see teams go 2 or 3 goals up quite quickly, and if you can't at least get back in the game, it'll be. I mean, like look what happened with Kansas City in their last match. It happens all too often that teams just run away if you're not able to keep up with the goals and be solid enough in the defensive line. I want to ask you, Grant, first. Who is your favorite NWSL player this season, and why?
Oh man, it's close. I mean, obviously, you have a pretty majestic player down there. I'll recuse.
I was going to ask you, and why is it Barbara Banda? But I thought that was too cheeky.
That's fair. I mean, it's a fair question. So I'll go non-Banda division, and I will say Temwa Chewinga. She is an offense in and of herself at Kansas City. Obviously, she's surrounded with a lot of great players over there, but the pressure that she puts on opposing defenses is just a nightmare. And she's so fast. She's so smart. Those goals that she scored against the Reign this past weekend, she's at full speed on the goal, on the one goal that she scores, and then she assisted another goal. She's at full speed when she hits that pass. Just the ability and like the wherewithal, the intelligence to be able to strike the ball when you're at 99 miles per hour. She's just an unbelievable footballer. She's appointment viewing in my view.
And Dino, same question for you. You know, which NWSL player is your favorite so far this year?
There's a lot to choose from. I'll go Barbara Bonda here, just because the impact that she's brought. Again, like I think we first probably got exposed to Bonda covering the World Cup last year and Zambia and kind of like their run. She had a performance where she scored 2 goals against Germany in like a pre-World Cup warm-up friendly that were just unbelievable. Like it just looked like video game stuff. Like you were just like, oh my God. Like, so that was my introduction to Barbara Bonda and her game. I think I even jokingly, I was like, all right, let's get her in Orlando, like, months later. And now here she is. She's even better than advertised, in my opinion. I mean, she puts such pressure on defenders. Like I said, who puts Naomi Gurm on the back foot like that? Not something that I don't think I've really ever seen, so, I mean, maybe Terrified's too strong. I think so. We walk that one back, but there's just there's no defending her. I think like she can go any direction. She's quick. She's fast. She's very creative. She's very precise. Like she had that one, she turned a loose ball into like a legit strike. I think like 10 or 12 minutes into this Wave match. We're just like, what was that? like where did that come from? So I think her level of explosiveness, her knack for putting the ball on frame, near frame, just kind of keeping the pressure on defenses is going to be such a nightmare. And I think athletically, you could put her speed-wise up there with anybody. The Chewingas, the Ellie Carpenter, like pretty much anybody in the world, she's right there. And she's got the skills and just the desire, to kind of like, break you like with just a moment of brilliance or a moment of power. She can also kind of overpower you. So we joke on the show, kind of any way you want it, she can deliver. So I think absolutely my favorite player of the season. Couple others that I think have definitely stood out, but I mean, it's Bonda's season. Like realistically, she joins the team. They stop losing. They stop doing anything except winning, except for the until she's taken off the field and like give her a little bit of a break. Now she's getting the respect she deserves. I think left off the team of the league. I think in April that was like a huge travesty, and now I think everybody's starting to catch up with exactly how special a player Bonda is.
Yeah, I was trying to find it there. It's down here. The best 11 from May. To get your opinions in there. Obviously, I agree pretty much with everything you said about Barbara. She was, I think, always going to be the player of the month of May when it came to the end of it. I think that was a no-brainer. But I wanted to get your guys' opinions on the others here. I think Croy Bethune is a really interesting, an incredible player. I think Sam Coffey we talked about, Sophia Smith, Emily Sam's getting in there. I think that was really well deserved. I've been calling for her to get in. I think that she also deserved that. So I think it's a really good pick here for them in May for this overall for best 11. Grant, did you think anybody missed out? Like I was upset, like Dino was saying before, on March, because there was no Pride players. But May, do you think anybody got missed out?
I think this looks about right. I think they really kind of nailed it here. Oli Sarr for Washington. I think that she is kind of getting a little overshadowed because you have Bethune and you have Rodman. And so I think Sarr has really acquitted herself very well. But yeah, this is a super solid 11 right here.
Dino, did you have anybody that is being ignored or not talked about in NWSL? Kind of is the same question, and not in the the 11 here picked out, or is anybody you think that we're not talking about that's just been, under the radar perhaps in NWSL this year?
I mean, well, under the radar. That's interesting. I think a couple interesting things about this list. I mentioned Racing Louisville, 2 Racing Louisville players on this list. No KC Current players on this list, which is a little bit of a shock.
Yeah,
I think
Chewinga, arguably, but maybe May wasn't her best month.
Yeah, Di Bernardo, she's been really, really good for them. Bia, obviously, when she's been on, they're just so explosive. But a couple of the players that I want to kind of quickly kind of shout out, Corey Bethune, like you mentioned, unbelievable, like creative, explosive as well, super quick, like just kind of slippery. Like you can't really we joke can't really get hands on her defensively. She's just going to go where she wants. Great ball skills and great vision. So I mean, I think her future is as bright as pretty much any player in the league, to be honest. And then the other one that it's kind of ho-hum because, she's been so celebrated for pretty much her entire career, but Sophia Smith, I think she had something like coming into the season, something like 58 career matches played in the NWSL, only 6 assists or 9 assists. And then this season so far, she's already got 6 assists. So she's elevated her eye level, opening up her vision. She's not just kind of looking to score. And then when you think about kind of all that talent in Portland as well, now if you have Sophie Smith distributing and getting assists, that's essentially the triple threat. She can run, pass, and shoot, and just kind of make it miserable for you trying to defend her. So I think those 2 players really, really stood out for different reasons. So I'm glad to see them on the list. And then, I think no KC Current players is it's interesting. I think we'll see what the rest of the season holds for them if they're able to kind of. I mean, a lot of times teams will somewhat kind of catch up, with what you're doing. They get tape on you. They can kind of figure stuff out, make some adjustments. It's a long season. That all right. We've seen this kind of this episode before. But then you see what they do to Seattle, and they just kind of wear you down. They fall asleep for a second, and they've just got the precision and the finishing ability and the athleticism to just create loads of space. Kind of as soon as you kind of take an extra second, with a blink or kind of catch your breath or you're looking the wrong direction, and they're putting the ball in the back of the net. So I think it's a solid list. But it's still so early. So it's going to be, I don't know. I think it's just going to be a really great season.
Yeah, I think Sophia Smith definitely is, she's been up there, obviously, in the race with Banda for Golden Boot. Is going to be like that all year. I think the 2 of them battling it out, most likely. Maybe we'll get a few other players in there, like maybe Chewinga will get in there if she starts putting even more in. The Golden Boot race is going to be it's going to be hot, but I'm hopeful that Barbara will be at the top of that at the end. We got a question here from Jay A. Texas. Who says, what are your thoughts on VAR this season? I'll go first on this one because VAR is finding some phantom calls. I gotta say, I don't know why it's happened in multiple Pride games where they've checked things on VAR there's absolutely nothing to check whatsoever. I don't understand why they're even doing the VAR check. They don't really tell us why. The ref doesn't actually go to the monitor. We just hear, oh, they check something. Yeah. So I think it's almost being overused or misused. We could talk all day about the reffing in NWSL, and the standards they're not great. We know that. But the VAR addition just seems to make things even worse. So you guys, your thoughts on VAR and NWSL. Dino, you want to give us first?
Yeah. So at the ITC, we're staunchly anti-VAR. We don't want it. I mean, we kind of joke, just get it out of here. We joke on the show. It's like, all right, okay, did something happen in the build up to the build up to the build up? We gotta go check. But at one point, it's like, okay, like I'm not sure what we're gaining. I'm not sure how this is elevating the product or making the game better. I mean, if we want to go back and like relitigate the performance of referees and try to get it right the next time, let's do that. I mean, Grant and I both played sports at lowish levels, and the refereeing is just part of the game. Like they'll miss calls one way, you'll get a call the other way, and usually over the long run things kind of balance out. So they were kind of both firmly I don't want to speak for you, Grant, but I'm very firmly, very staunchly anti-VAR. Get it out of here. I think I don't know if it's the right kind of solution. I mean, there could be other ways to employ some technology to get a little better, get a little smarter. I'm not sure if stopping the game and doing a whole bunch of instant replay is exactly the answer that we're looking for here.
Grant, your team no VAR?
Yeah, absolutely. I just we are not here for referee slow motion litigation. I'm not watching the matches for that. Like there's that. I will say if you could put a limit on VAR that was you do the cool thing where it's you pause the video when the pass is being hit, and then you ever see them like they drag the line and then they see is the person offside. I can live with that, but that is the absolute most that I want. And you're dead on, man. When you're talking about like they're like finding phantom calls in there. I don't need a referee slowing something down to super slow-mo and be like, oh yeah, she did catch her leg there. Like that is not the spirit of what the rule is, in my view.
Yeah, and we've had some interesting decisions when they have gone to VAR. Like it's happened multiple times this season at our stadium where they've gone and looked at something that was like a clear foul, and then they've gone, no, it wasn't. It's like, well, if you're not even gonna use it properly, then what are we doing? It's just a waste of time. Yes, it's definitely inefficiently used, and in this league, I would say definitely it's hard to get right, and a lot of leagues struggle with this with VAR. So I don't think you guys are alone in that feeling. That maybe it's not worth it at all. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about you guys and what you think for the prediction of the Shield and the NWSL Cup. So, Grant, you go first. Who's going to win the Shield? Who's going to win NWSL Cup?
So before the season, I picked the Portland Thorns to win the NWSL Cup because I think looking at the rosters, thinking about the history, and to get a little like woo on you, maybe a dream that I had where I was like, is Christine Sinclair going to walk out the absolute legend that she is, a queen of the game? Is she going to walk out on top lifting that NWSL Cup? And I think the Thorns have the players to do it. And in terms of winning the Shield preseason, I picked Gotham FC on our preview pod. And, it's been like you pointed it out earlier. It was a rough start for them. They might have one thing that I underestimated is that they might have a little trouble coming out of these international breaks because Gotham FC is Team USA FC. So I'm a little concerned about that now. If I wouldn't do it because of, sports take integrity, I need to maintain that I picked Gotham FC. I'm going to stick with them. If I got to choose, I think the Orlando Pride win the Shield.
Well, I wouldn't be upset about that. Dino, what do you think, buddy? The Shields, and also Grant, you're totally, forget about integrity, man. You can totally join Orlando.
I'm on the bandwagon.
Yeah, join the bandwagon. You might as well. No, Grant. I'm sorry, Dino. Your choices.
I think. And Grant, my bad. I don't quite remember. The only one I remember is I think I remember my Cup final prediction. I don't remember my Shield prediction, but I think for my Shield prediction, I think I'm going to go with the Washington Spirit. You look at Jonathan Hidalgo coming in from FC Barcelona off winning the Champions League. Basically, we talked about those players: Trinity Rodman, Ule Sarr, Croy Bethune. They're just loaded. You can go down the list. Hal Hirschfeld, Hatch, Kruger, Gabby Carl, Andy Sullivan. Carl was great for Canada. I mean, I think this team has all of the components to basically win the marathon, which is what the regular season is. And I think Hidaldes could be a real injection of some new. We talked about kind of like getting tape and making these adjustments. Getting him, kind of in the middle of all this, to bring in, just some incredibly fresh ideas. I think their ceiling is incredibly high ultimately, and they've got the roster. Like, they're just talented. They play well. They're already playing really, really well. I would pick that spirit team to kind of like finish the season on top.
And then for the cup,
it's going to be the Orlando Pride, man.
there we go.
It's
I was
happening.
like, one of these got to be Orlando Pride.
It's going to be Orlando. I think,
like, throw the logic out the window. Let's go.
I think the difference, they have sort of like we do a lot of cross sport comparisons. A little bit of Shaq and Kobe vibes to the Orlando in terms of they can defend. You want to play that way, we can play that way, and then offensively they can be explosive. So whatever way you want to do it, and the playoffs ultimately is about matchups. Like, you could have a formula and just line up against a team that has the perfect antidote for what you want to do. So I think Orlando, their versatility, and Bonda just has the ability to just be the best player on the field in every single match. And then you pair that up with defensively. I think even in the defensive midfield, like Orlando, they've got players there. They make it really, really impossible to kind of get any kind of rhythm. Like, to me, the signal of a great defensive team is how quickly can you diffuse a chance, because chances get created. And if it's like within a pass and a half and the chance is over, like, that's what you want to see defensively. Like, if you let a team kind of ping it around and like, it's bend but don't break, that is a little bit more risky. So I definitely like Orlando in a playoff knockout type, environment to kind of take it all the way. I originally preseason, give them a little baby pat on the back, I did have the Pride making the final, didn't have them kind of fully winning it. This was pre-Bonda, so I was like, kind of halfway all in, preseason. But now I'm fully all in, all the chips center of the table, so I could go. The Pride will win the cup this year.
I think for me, it's either the Shield or the cup. I think the Shield it could be more likely based on just how well we've been doing. But we're gonna be up there at the end of the year, and it's just it's a knockout tournament. That's what everybody has to remember at the end of the season. It's who's in form, right? Look what happened last year. Look what happened last year with Gotham. They snuck in like right above us, snuck in and won it. So, anything can happen when you get down to it just being a cup format. But across the year, I do think that is where maybe we differ from Kansas City or from Washington. The defense, like you were talking about, Dino, over Orlando Pride this year, there's just a we will not say die attitude there, where we will not give up. We will not. And a lot of that is like players like Haley McCutcheon, was a right back who got put back into DM, who's killing it again. She could play there before, but she's doing a great job. So excited about that. One last question before we get out of here. If anyone else has any questions, drop them in the comments. We got a comment here. He says, "All of all sad words, why? This is why I'm on Casey Stoney's side and believe the Shield is a real trophy." Okay. If we win the playoffs, and I'll change my opinion. I mean, look, I'm a Euro person, so like I was brought up. We finished top of the table. That's it. All of this American playoffs, I've got into it over the years, but for me, I'm like, the winner is the team with the most points at the end of the year. I would like to win the cup, sure, but the Shield is the ultimate statement in my eyes. So, you guys cup or Shielders?
I 100% agree with you. We've talked about it on our pod. If you have a system where every team plays each other home and away twice, and you tally up all the points and you
which is
look at goal
pure
differential.
soccer, right? Like that's the purest how you would set it up.
Exactly. I think that is the most fair way to determine at the end of the year, when you look at all those totals, who was the best team that season. And that's the team that should lift the trophy. I think it is. I think you put it perfectly, John. That is the most fair way to determine that. So I'm on your side on this.
But I mean, I know I'm in the minority in America. It's a lot about who's winning the cup, right? You know, who's winning the
You're
esteemed
brainwashed.
trophy. So, yeah, it's look. I think either's great for a lot of your pride, like I said.
Sure.
But I want to finish the end of the season at the top of that table. Dino, your thoughts? Are you a Shield or a Cup guy?
I mean, you got to respect the Shield. I think I'm just kind of like a 50-50 proposition kind of guy. I think they're both pretty much on equal footing, both incredibly hard to do. One, a lot more random. You know, obviously the Cup has some randomness to it, but it is still kind of an incredible feat. Obviously, this is the United States. March Madness is like kind of like one of our darlings. In terms of like, oh, this is, and you realize that you're not necessarily crowning the best team. I think if we're asking that question, who was the best team? Who was the team of the season? It is the Shield winner, but it's not easy to win a tournament, especially when you're taking the top 8 teams this season in the NWSL, and you're saying, all right, let's see of these 8, who's still there at the end. Also incredibly challenging. So maybe a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I'm a 50-50 guy.
Alrighty. I also wanted to ask you about Wrigley Field. They just had a game. It was, I believe, an NWSL record attendance of 35,000, something like that, out at Wrigley Field in Chicago for Fire versus Bay FC. Now, for years, I will preface this with we have made fun of a certain New York-based team for playing in a baseball stadium. I gotta say, soccer in a baseball stadium doesn't work, in my opinion. The shapes just don't match up. There's a big corner of dirt always. So I'm always like, ooh, soccer in a, oh, brother, that's gross. But I think that it's great that there was a lot of attendance. So I got mixed feelings on this, and I wanted to know what you guys thought. So Dino, what are your thoughts on Wrigley Field full of Fire fans?
I can definitely co-sign, that notion of, Grant and I are both New York guys. That's kind of where we met originally. We're no longer there, but saw my fair share of games at Yankee Stadium, and total cosign. It's just weird. Like it just feels to kind of totally off, I would say. But with that said, Chicago, Red Stars play at SeatGeek Stadium, roughly 20 miles ish southwest of Wrigley. I think Bridgeview, Illinois, definitely in the burbs. Really cool to kind of like get to Wrigley, pull in, I'm for whatever elevates the game. And to me, you go across town. Like when I lived in New York, I lived maybe like a 10-minute walk from Barclays Center. They built it. I was in the neighborhood when they started building it, and then the Nets come to town all of a sudden. It's awesome. You just walk over and, pop in, grab a ticket, and have a great time. And just, it definitely solidified my relationship with the NBA. So now you've got 35,000 fans, a bunch of them probably hopping on the L, walking over to Wrigley, getting exposed to the game. Chicago, Mal Swanson, that whole thing, and Bay FC, everything that they have going on with their attackers as well. And the product is awesome. I think we are women's football, podcasters for a reason, because the leaps that this sport is making in season, it's not even like season to season. We're just like from month to month. You're like, okay, this is new. Never saw this before. So anything that kind of like opens the doors, brings people to the tent. I mean, I'm fully sign me up for all of that.
Grant, you feel a similar way?
Yeah, I think so. I think the growing of the game is obviously it's a hot topic. You see it a lot in women's basketball right now too. I think I'm all for that I'm for a little bit of gatekeeping for like some of the more annoying sports personalities. Like maybe we could try to find a way to leave them out of these conversations. But in general, growing the game is good. I think one of the concerns that I always have, again, going back to me being like, I don't want anybody to get hurt out there, is the safety issue. You made a great point, John. Like you're putting grass over the infield in season in baseball. Like how safe is that going to be? I think Alyssa Nair had some comments about like the Wrigley Field groundskeeper was like really attentive to their concerns and like came to them and asked them like, okay, what do we need? What do you need on a football pitch to make this thing happen? So hearing that, super encouraging to hear that there was like a level of collaboration. The Seattle Reign, I mean, they used to play at Cheney Stadium in Tacoma, which is like 40 minutes, 30 minutes on a light traffic day south of Seattle. And Cheney Stadium is I think they're the Rainiers baseball team. I think they might be the Mariners, like AAA or AA. Pardon me, my Seattle siblings for not knowing exactly what that is. But I'm a Johnny come lately to this a little bit. Like I moved out here in 2019. I became a Reign supporter right around then. And I went to some of those matches at Cheney Stadium. And then when they moved over to Lumen Field, where the Seattle Seahawks play football, right, like downtown Seattle, I was like, oh, thank God this happened. And I was talking to a pal of mine who I work with, and she was like, you know what? We kind of liked the nature of Cheney Stadium down in Tacoma. It was small, it was intimate, it was kind of like our own thing. So I see both sides of the coin, and she really opened my eyes when she said that. But I think all in all, player safety is so paramount, especially in a sport with an ACL crisis like women's football is having right now, where you see it is so prevalent. So I do have some of those concerns when you put them on these different styles of pitches. I tend to prefer something that is made for football specifically.
I think it's exciting for the Chicago Red Stars specifically because
Yes.
they've struggled, and so I think it's good that they're getting good attendance, and that Bay FC is a new team, so there's a lot of positivity here. I'm just like you. I want to see soccer played on I'll say it right now, the turf at Lumen Field. That's another thing where I'm like,
Yep.
not a fan of playing on turf as well, and like baseball stadiums are in there. It's just a case of like it's injuries, and it's just the way the game plays and everything else. So I think in this country it would be great if we could see more progression towards getting everybody on a real soccer specific grass fields. We're blessed here at Orlando Pride. I mean, we have an absolutely beautiful field because we get year-round sunshine. So we're able to grow that here. I want to ask you guys if you had anything you wanted to say, or Dino, any last comments before we get out of here?
Not a whole lot, man. Just really appreciate you kind of open the doors to Grant and I, letting us, kind of share some insights and kind of talk a little football. I speaking for myself, had a great time. So definitely appreciate you sharing the platform with us.
Grant, any last comments?
No, man, Dino nailed it. I mean, this was awesome. I appreciate the invite. I mean, you guys are doing super cool stuff over here. Always happy to collaborate whenever. We will have to return the favor if you would ever be inclined. Please come join us over on Into the Channel.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys go ahead and promote your channel right now, actually. Dino, do the spiel because you're the guy, apparently.
He's the guy.
For sure. Yeah. So Into the Channel, available wherever you like to watch or listen: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Some fun stuff. We did our Champions League favorite 11s. So Grant and I did a draft this past week where, we're not allowed to pick each other's players. So we each took our favorite 11 from the Champions League. We finished with a different 11. We're going to put it to a vote to see who drafted the better squad. We got in touch with Lily Johannes after her unbelievable performance for the U.S. women's national team against South Korea in that second matchup. She gave us a great quote about what it was like stepping onto the field. And like I mentioned up top, we've got Leanne Sanderson on the show later this week. That should be going live probably tomorrow, end of day. So definitely hit that subscribe button. Come hang out with us. We love the comments. We love all of the kind of engagement. And again, yeah, just thanks for letting us hang out. We really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun having you here on LPO with us. It's something that I personally, from the algorithm, we can thank the algorithm. If it sent me you guys, so I was like, hey, what is this? What is this channel here? And I watched your stuff, and I was like, you do really good product. I think really great content. You meant I really enjoy your stuff around the women's national team. That's something that I really enjoy. Just in general, I absorb all of that as much as I can. I think it's such a great they're such a great powerhouse of a team, and you get great reporting on them. So keep up your good work. I want to say, everybody, I'm hoping there's some listeners here at the Pride Pod that also follow, and if not, now go check them out. That's why we're here. So go over there, subscribe, do their thing, and while you're also there, you should subscribe to us here at LPO. If you're not already, go to Loud and Proud Orlando on YouTube. We are also on social media as at LPO_podcast on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and Instagram. And you can also find us on Facebook as Loud and Proud Orlando. And if you want to listen, you can listen later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I think that's everything we need to talk about. As always here in Orlando, if you don't want to, Grant, you don't have to join in with this part, but we always like to sign off the show with a Vamos Orlando. But if you want to do, Vamos myself, because I know you're not a Rain fan either. You're just a Rain reporter, right?
Unbiased journalist.
So thank you so much, guys, for being here. And Vamos Pride.
Yeah, Vamos Pride for sure, man. Let me on the Bonda wagon, please.
All right, that's what we like to hear. Dino, Vamos Pride, buddy.
Vamos Pride, let's go. We're out here. And John, Luis, shout out to you guys. Beers next time. We're all in the building at the same time. Again, apologies, Luis. I still feel terrible about that, but we're gonna make it right next time around.
Yes, he's gonna hit you up. So thanks everybody again. We'll see you next time. Vamos Pride, y'all.
Vamos Pride. Thanks, John.
Vamos.